What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. All right, dudes. Rhomas Men's Team, pretty simple. We help each other reach our goals as men. We got Mr. Paul Wall here today. Long time no see, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Usually these meetings are at a time where I've got competing meetings at work, so I try and hop in the last 20 minutes or so when I can, but glad to be able to be here today.
Heck yeah, buddy. From what I remember, and let me know that I'm not crossing over boundaries or anything. So I think you were going through a divorce last time we talked, like we're towards the tail end of it.
Yep.
And then how has that all played out so far?
Honestly, pretty good. Like I was immediately after my divorce, I was like dating around and kind of fucking around, and I wasn't hitting a lot of the personal goals that like I wanted to. A lot of it around like paying off debt. Like I had like 40,000 in student loan debt, and then like 10,000 or so in credit card debt, and I had a shitty car, and it was like I was doing everything but getting my shit together. I have been talking on mute this whole time.
No, we didn't hear you.
Gotcha. So yeah, basically it was like immediately after my divorce was like fucking around. I wasn't hitting any of my personal goals, was just like dating. I had like a lot of credit card debt, a lot of student loan debt, and like pretty quickly like got that out of my system and then focused on some of the goals. So like I realized like my student loan forgiveness, like the borrower had like not counted 3 years of payments. So like I was able to get that forgiven after I got like my paperwork updated and fixed.
Damn.
I like paid off my credit cards. And then now I'm kind of at this point, like I talked a little bit about it on Friday, like in the chat, but like kind of time blocking to like make goals and milestones and stuff like that. And like I had this epiphany over the weekend where it's like, why just do that at work? Why not do that in other areas of my life where I'm not disciplined? Because that's one thing I really struggle with is like discipline. So it's like, oh, if I can do that and be successful at work, like why not do that in your life otherwise, you know? So
yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. So I had we had 5 interns over at the office this summer, and one of the things I had them do was them prepare their own personal goals presentation. Not like, oh, let's create a goals presentation of how you're going to move the company forward and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, I want to know about your personal goals. And it's crazy. One of the things I proposed to them, it's like, think about how many school projects you've done or how many work projects you've done and add up all of those hours and also the intensity at which you approached those projects. And I dare you to even put on the table that you've spent 1% of that time and or effort creating a presentation or intensity for your own personal stuff. Like that's crazy. I mean, think about that. It's like, it's absolutely insane. And Paul, what I hear you saying is that it's the same model. Like, hey, I'm spending all this time. I've done all these. I have a certain methodology that I bring to work. Why am I not bringing it to my personal life? So big light bulb moment. Why don't I just do that to my personal life?
yeah, I feel like I had the same weekend I did like a year ago, you know? And that to me, like, sent me mentally down like a crazy place this weekend where I was like, fuck, I'm doing the same thing I was a year ago. That's not good, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also wonder, like, we have the goal and then the intensity or the degree to which we need to meet the goal. I mean, it's so interesting. It's like, okay, I'm having trouble losing 10 pounds. Okay, well, the methodology by which losing 10 pounds hasn't changed since humans have been humans, right? And the 10 pounds is a great and relative. It's an easier goal. Right? You can hit the goal. It's a realistic goal. So usually not that we have to examine. What we have to examine is to what degree are you motivated to reach the goal? If you had a gun to your head or your mother was going to die if you didn't reach the goal, you would reach the goal 100% of the time. You'd probably do it in half the time. And I know this sounds so obvious when we make an extreme thing like that, but oftentimes, like, what's your level of commitment to the goal? What's your level of intensity to the goal? What's your level of need to get the goal done? And Paul, I'm going to imagine that divorce is a pretty big motivator.
Yeah, it it was at first, but then as more time goes in between, and like my issue like coming out of the divorce was like mostly financial, like, and now that like and that was really easy because it's like, hey, every month that I like hit X milestone, like it's easy to not spend money, you know. But it's like now that I've hit like all of those sort of milestones, it's like now the real ones, it's like struggling with accountability to myself. And it's like my weekend was like, hey, have 6 beers and grab KFC one of those days. And it's like, fuck, I remember I did that last year. And like,
Mm.
that's not part of my goal of like getting my shit together that way, you know? So it's like, now that I've taken care of all my goals, like I haven't really focused that same energy on another one. And I just don't have the same motivations I did a year ago.
So if you're down for it, tell us one or two of the things on the goal list and how we can help.
Uh, I think like the biggest goal for me is to outside of like financial, I want to get into a house. Like in 2 years, I want to have 50,000 saved up to be able to put on a down payment on a house. I think that that's pretty achievable if I get a promotion, which I'm applying for. So like that part, I feel like is okay. It's more so like everything that happens on the days in between, you know, where it was like I'd like
Mm.
to. I envision it in kind of like a black and white scenario where it's like in order to hit like my house milestone, I have to not do like other shit. Like I would like to date and I would like to build a connection with somebody, but I feel like dating is very expensive and I feel like that is counterproductive to like the goal that I have, you know, instead of like how can I find
Mm.
another way to do this, like in confronting like some of the realities that might be shortcomings there as I like pursue another relationship with somebody. It's like, oh, don't even pursue that because you're so focused on this other goal, you know?
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I've got some thoughts on
So
this, but let me pass the mic over to. I'm just going to randomly select. Let me pass it over to Mark. Mark, what comes up for you when you hear Paul say that?
Uh, Hi guys. I I don't have a lot of insight on divorce. I got close to marriage, but didn't get over there, and I'm pretty sure it would have ended in divorce. So sometimes it's a blessing how things worked out. But I do have some thoughts that I've thought about, which is I recently looked at what the difference between willpower and discipline is. And I think uh, understanding those are important. So, willpower is the impetus to start or not do something in the moment. It's that spark that makes you make that decision whether you're not going to do something or do something. And discipline is exercising willpower over time until it becomes a habit, and eventually it doesn't take as much willpower to be disciplined. Uh, and so thinking about that, I think incentives and rewards. That's how we build up. I mean, that's what motivates us biologically, and so we are looking for that reward a lot of times, and it makes things easy. Money is a great example. More money makes you motivated to do the right thing or do what you're trying to do. Um, but with dieting and exercise, the reward is not necessarily immediate. And there's that willpower to get your butt to the gym, and then the discipline to keep going when you don't feel like it. But I think just having it defined in your brain which ones you're exercising. Is this willpower? Is this discipline? Is this delayed gratification for this reward? And just really making sense of that makes, because sometimes we also, I believe, delude ourselves into believing that this thing's not very important to me, and or that doesn't matter, or whatever, and that's not necessarily true. Oftentimes, that's what denial sometimes can be. So I think just really making sure you know what's dictating your actions helps you make more accurate judgments on what you're trying to do. I don't know if that's relevant, but that's what I've been trying to figure out.
Awesome.
The last piece is getting the discipline of executing willpower. I think that's the trick to really get those long term ones. So that I haven't figured it out yet, but
Love it. Outstanding. Thank you, brother. Let me throw the ball over to TJ. TJ, what comes up for you when you hear Paul talk about his goals?
I feel like, and I'm not like in a similar situation. I guess I'll first touch on like what you were saying about dating and maybe getting yourself back out there, and maybe the fear or the reality of just like the work needed to develop and grow a relationship will take you away from like your objectives to reach your goals. And it's a fair point, like not even really mentioning like developing feelings and the roller coaster that kind of takes you. And it's kind of ironic because this is sort of happening right now. Like for me, I matched with a girl on Hinge last week, and like I don't really know if if this is going to throw off like just kind of like the hard work, because I'm just sort of getting my fundamentals down. But I don't know, man. Like for me, it's just like I got to kind of take it while it's there and like try and just sort of see what happens. And I would also say on like the like in between periods, or like feeling like you've accomplished like one goal, or like your goal is kind of far away and you're like reaching the objectives every month to put away the money, but that in between time seems like a little stagnant and a little bit like I'm sorry, I'm forgetting, like I can't think of the word, but I just think maybe you should try to find like new goals, new objectives, in a way start small, crush them so you get like that confidence, and just sort of like maybe like find new hobbies that are positive and can get you like like where you want to be, that fit you.
Awesome. I want to throw this out. And Paul, if I remember correctly, you're in accounting, right?
Yep.
So I think so. This is what comes up for me. I think the feedback from the team is great. This is what comes up for me. So I work in finance, and accounting and finance have two, I think, and just play along with the analogy, Paul. I know it's not going to fit perfectly, but accounting and finance, there's a pretty big distinction between the two of them. Accounting is kind of like, in general, like talking about counting in arrears. Like, okay, here's what historically has happened, so we're going to count the things. And finance is more about, primarily future-based. Okay, here's what we're going to invest in so that the things become larger. And the major difference between the two is this like compounding effect. There is this guy who recently passed away. His name is Charlie Munger. He was Warren Buffett's partner. And what he studied psychology, and in particular, one of his like fascinations was what he called the Lollapalooza effect, which was, if you look at certain psychological levers in the human decision-making process, you can find really crazy asymmetries. I could, like, for instance, like if a waiter or waitress leaves you a mint right after they get done serving you, you won't really see an increase in tips. If the waiter or waitress leaves you a mint and then walks away and then comes back and says, just for you, I'll leave you a few more. Apparently, according to Robert Cialdini's book, it increases tips by 20 to 30%. Like, this is crazy if you think about it, right? Because the mint costs probably less than 0.2 pennies, right? But you can increase the tip by 20 to 30% on a $100 bill. That's $20 to $30. That's insane, right? But what Charlie Munger was more fascinated with was the compounding of that type of effect, which is, right, like some sort of reciprocity, mixed with other effects, right, like appeal to authority, urgency, scarcity, blah, 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 right? And when you combine all of those, you get this like exponential on top of exponential return. The reason I'm saying that, and the thing I think that it applies to your situation, Paul, is if I were in your shoes, I would consider not doing these sequentially to go, first, I'm going to do this. Then 6 months from now or a year from now, after I've gotten that, I'm going to then do this. And then I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this. Because number one, remember that you're growing older each day, as obvious as that sounds, right? But it's like, the fuck are you waiting for? Right? Like, you know, but also what you are removing from possibility is like the compounding, the Lollapalooza effect of what it looks like if you get six-pack abs and you're on a trajectory of getting a promotion, and you got a new car and you got a new place, or and I don't think that has to be one after the other. In fact, I would imagine it would be like a J curve, like we've talked about before. I think you might, and almost like a cursive J curve, if that makes sense. Like you're going to get this tiny upswing of whatever, right? You're feeling good. You lost a little bit of weight. You know, maybe you saved a little bit of money on whatever, right? And then all of a sudden the next week hits and your body's a little sore. You got a credit card bill that you didn't expect. And so you start to go down a little bit. But then if you give yourself a chance, you will start to go exponentially back up. So my vote for your situation, and I know this sounds crazy, but it's literally, number one, cut off all things that don't move the needle for you, right? Like just don't do them. Like be ruthless in spending time with people that aren't going to move it forward, doing things that aren't going to move it forward. If there's snacks in your house, get them the fuck out of there, right? Like all this stuff, ruthless on the non-doing of the things that don't move the needle. And then you're focused with the only things that matter, which let's count that as everything. Those things are the only things that matter. Therefore, those are everything to you. Then it's like everything, always. I'm going to work on these things, which is everything that's important, always. Not then I'll do this, then I'll do this, then I'll do this. I'm going to imagine the guys that you and I admire, they're those guys, that they have everything, at least by our interpretation, right? It's the guy who dresses well, who presents himself well, who communicates like a beast, who has the money, who has the family, who has the house, who has all that stuff. And I know the counter argument is like, oh, well, not everybody has it. It's like, yeah, but like practically we know people who have those things, right? And just like Ben Franklin did, it's like examine the people that you admire and then just reverse engineer it. So anyway, sorry for the long-winded explanation, but I think you should pursue all of them today. Paul, what say you?
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Like being completely honest, like the two, like it's easy when there's a financial goal because it's like, hey, every 2 weeks, like put that money from your paycheck onto your credit card and like, hey, don't spend money in between. And it's like with everything else, I got into like such a crazy negative feedback loop where like I've watched the scale go up like 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds a week for however many weeks, you know? And it's like, oh, I'm hitting all my other goals. And it's like, it's so crazy because like over the weekend, like I had to, it took like hours to convince myself just to get off the couch and like just get out and walk for an hour, you know? So it's like being so down on those in-betweens where it's just idle wasted time. And I think that like along with that came like a lot of video games, a lot of media consumption, a lot of things that just don't add to the goal period. And it's like, well, I'm hitting my goals, so I'm cool to do all this other stuff where it's like, okay, well, I am wasting my life. You know, like that was the big thing that hit me where it's like, I need to apply that same scheduling, that same whatever to the rest of my life because I just don't have the willpower or discipline built up to be able to like just freehand life, like I can't.
Yep,
So
100%.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it reminds me of that quote. It's like, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, which is counterintuitive because like, oh, if I just like, if I have a whole bunch of time, then of course I'll be able to do it. But it's like kind of like Tim Ferriss wrote in his book. It's like, we all know what it's like to have it, to mail a letter or send an email, and it takes us all freaking day when we don't have anything else to do. But when we have 100 things to do, we get the majority of them done because of the momentum effect. So I would also say, I think this is a really interesting topic. If you're back into the dating world, which I think I'm hearing that you are, what do you guys think what's some low-hanging fruit? Since Ray's such a ladies' man, let me throw it over to Ray. I don't know if he can hear us or if it's on a lag. Ray, any low-hanging fruit that if you were to get back into the dating world, what do you think you would do? Like, what's the biggest bang for your buck? Sorry, guys, bear with us. It might be in a really bad service area. Oh, shit. Sorry, Ray. Yeah, it's messed up. Mark, let me throw it over to you. What is your best guess of biggest bang for your buck if a man is getting back into the dating world?
So I'm a hacker mentality, and I like little tricks and things that that work for me. And so one of the tricks I've learned, and I'll share it with you guys, that's pretty interesting. So I'm sometimes insecure whenever I'm talking to a lady and have the butterflies and the nervousness, and sometimes it comes out awkwardly where I say something really stupid, and then it just compounds and it spirals, and it can go south really quickly. And so one of the hacks I've recently learned was, and it really works, is think of something really silly to be insecure about. And so for me, I think I have fat knees. Now, I don't really believe this, but the whole time I'm thinking, I hope she's not looking at my fat knees. I really hope that she's just anything but looking at my fat knees. And what it does is takes your mind off of the real insecurities you have, and because you're only focusing on these fat knees. And if it doesn't work out, you don't have the emotional baggage of the reinforcing in your brain this insecurity you have. If you're really concerned about your looks or your awkwardness or whatever, and you're able to almost dismiss that rejection as it was because of my fat knees, because that's all you're telling your brain. And you don't get nervous because you're really not too insecure about your fat knees, and it is weirdly just divert your focus into that mantra almost, and you end up being a lot cooler in the moment. And so silly, I have these silly things that I run in my brain, but it gets it off of the thing that I might actually be really uncomfortable about, and that projects out when you are it's hard to mask through insecurity and when you're not being in the moment.
Yeah, I've actually heard something similar, but well, kind of related, but impressed on the female that you're going on a date with. Like, give her some sort of quality in your mind, right? That helps reduce you putting on her on a pedestal, if that makes sense. Right? And you pick whatever, maybe she has fat knees or something like that. Like you kind of visualize that, so it reduces this like power dynamic, if that makes sense. TJ, let me throw you the mic, bud. What are your thoughts?
That's like very, very true. I'm disabled. I got into a car accident. My arm is all banged up, doesn't bend anymore. I got a limp. My leg is banged up. So like, and getting back out into like the dating like scene was like really nerve-wracking, What I would say is like, try to have confidence as much as you can in yourself. Like, I'm pretty, like, I guess lucky people will tell me that like I'm really fun to be around and like this and that. So like I try to, and even though I don't believe it all the time, say like whoever like I end up with is like just as lucky as who's gonna end up with me. And like that kind of takes away a little bit of that stress of like trying to be perfect. And also, like, I mean, again, this is maybe like really cliche. I'm pretty new into the dating scene, and I've been on a few dates, and some went good, some went like pretty terrible. But it's just like maybe start off as friends, like maybe I'd say be very honest, be like vulnerable. You could specifically for you, Paul, if you're like getting back in and like you can maybe tell someone you're slightly interested, like I got a divorce, I'm not ready to rush into things. Like I think I truly value just like a friendship, like a real solid ground of like I want to be around this person, I want to hang out with this person, like I genuinely like enjoy their company, enjoying like their mind, I guess, as corny as that sounds. Like it's like they're very stimulating. So I'm not sure if that particularly helps you. This is like kind of just what's in like my life. And yeah.
Yeah, and Paul, let me ask you, not that you asked for any of this dating advice. This is, by the way, this is not dating advice. This is all of our what's coming up for us. If you look at a guy, and let's be honest, because I know this is a really weird question. A celebrity or an athlete or somebody, like, hey, like if I was that guy, right, and holistically, not just because he's the world's most famous dude, but like holistically, like, okay, that guy is one I would want to take from his playbook, right? Well, who would that be, or who comes to mind?
I've got a friend who's like he's very good at talking to people, and so he's very just naturally he like it's like that movie What Women Want, where like he just talks to somebody and he like knows what the hell to say, and it's like
Mel
that
Gibson.
I'm very envious of. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, here's what comes up for me. Number one, because I would always want to give like what if I were on the other side of this, I would want like very practical, like, hey man, what's your opinion on like steps 1 through 3? What would you do? Number one, for sure, I know it's going to sound crazy. I would go and I would create some sort of account, like a Pinterest account or something like that, and I'd immediately find what I thought would look good from a clothing perspective. I think so many guys out there, if you can increase your attractiveness. I'm not saying you, Paul. I'm saying in general by 3 or 4 points, if not more, clothing alone. Like this is if you think about it, this is insane. This is the benefit that we have as men is that like even if you look like a Ninja Turtle, right? Like if you put a tux on a Ninja Turtle, it automatically to the female world it gives you 3 or 4 points. This is crazy, and unfortunately, I don't think females have the same right like advantage, right? Because us men are very shallow, right? But like for men, we can do a few things that will instantly increase our visual qualitative points. This for me is absolutely insane. Now I like clothing stores, let's say like Suit Supply and so on. What is his name? What's the Deadpool guy's name? Ryan. Who's that guy?
Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. Like if you look how he dresses in real life, I think the dude's got great style, etc. But I go on Pinterest. I literally have a Pinterest board that says, "Here's my style," and then I will go and try to find those. And you can even like press it says like "shop the look" and so on. This sounds overly simplistic, but I promise you, man, it's a game changer. Plus, it starts to get you to think of living and dressing and being beyond your current perception of yourself. And that right there is incredibly important. I think most of us guys, they bring with them today who they were yesterday and the week before and the month before and the years before. Why can't you present yourself as a CEO? Why can't you present yourself as where you are working to be rather than who you've been? And I know this sounds crazy, but like, for instance, Paul, I'm not picking on you here, but you have a graphic tee on right now, right? When's the last time you dressed in a button down or a suit or something like that, or like a fine cotton polo? Like when's the last time you did that?
Like not for work?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a very long time. Work every week,
like,
but
I wonder what that would look like, and then
Yeah.
also the qualitative part of it. You know, like sometimes I'll see a guy. It's like, oh, he's like, yeah, I'm wearing a collared shirt. I'm like, yeah, dude, you got it from. It's a hand me down from your cousin who's 2 sizes bigger than you. It's not ironed. The collar's folded in, or like all of these things. So you don't have to go extravagant. In fact, my opinion is almost the more elegant. If you pull it off, there's an elegance in simplicity, as long as the simplicity is intentional and crisp. You know what I mean? And when it comes to clothing, that it fits you, that it's matched appropriately. Now, I know this might be a little bit of a stretch for a lot of people, but like if you go to a place like Nordstrom or Suit Supply, I shop at Suit Supply quite frequently. There's people who are trained there to like put outfits together, and if you've already done the legwork and like you hold up your Pinterest account, which I always do, then they can help you put that together, that stuff. Anyway, by the way, Paul, if you ever want to talk about this one-on-one, I love talking about this kind of stuff, if you can't tell. So that's number one, right? I would upgrade my attire immediately. If I were on dating websites, from my understanding, it's like, I think it's something crazy. Like 85% of the throughput is through pictures, and in particular, your first picture. So I would hands down invest in literally get a professional photographer to go and take probably 1,000 to 2,000 pictures of me, 100%. Right. And I would be intentional about those pictures, right? So that it would show who I am through the picture, right? Even in the background, right? Like all these things like, I don't know, if I were in the dating world again, I would go to a city type of landscape. I would go to New York. I would get pictures taken there. I would have different textures and so on in the background to show that like I'm willing to do more than my competitors in the dating pool, right? Who are just taking like selfies of them, like, I don't know, fishing or whatever, right? Like, I don't know what it would be. Even if it is fishing, by the way, I would get them professionally done, right? That's the second thing. The third thing that I would do, because Paul, I think you're 100% accurate on, is like learning how to communicate with the opposite sex. And that I wish was just like, think about like this one thing. There's tricks to it, but I do think having the perpetual study of charismatic communication that's true to you. And with that being said, I'd highly recommend going and watching literally every single video on Charisma on Command. I think those guys did a phenomenal job on their YouTube videos. I also think they did a phenomenal job with their actual course, Charisma University. So I would just become an absolute expert at that, and then I would literally practice it, and then I'd get my butt into the gym, right? Like every single day, hands down, and I'd start eating better because that would make me feel better. It would instantly start making me look better because every single piece of clothing that you wear, right, when you upgrade it, it will look even better when you get more and more fit. And that game never ends, right? Like adding another inch of muscle or whatever it is. And then the final thing is I would actually I would sit down and really discover about myself, like, okay, if I were the ultimate male who I wanted to be, right? Like taking out to its logical extreme. What does he do? Right? Does he dance? Does he rock climb? Does he whatever that is? And then I would start going and immersing myself in groups like that. Just constantly being in things that I loved. So I would automatically bring an energy to it because I was magnetically drawn to it to begin with. And then I would bring all of the man who I'm building up currently in the background to those events, if that makes sense. So anyway, Paul, I will pause there. Sorry, that was a lot of word salad. What are your thoughts?
Who is the content person that you're referring to for those videos?
Charisma on Command.
Okay. So I just to kind of recap it, I think that made a lot of sense. Like first really kind of defining what it is that I would like to be or am trying to be. And then create like an intentional atmosphere around that, whether it's like changing wardrobe or like pursuing skills that are going to help further develop that. And then really just, I guess, focus on that. Like for me, I was looking at it, I think too linearly. And like I was like, I wasn't liking the type of person that I was attracting. I was like, I feel like I need to have my shit together financially before I'm ready to date again. Now I've done that, and then it's like, oh fuck, I feel like I'm in the same place, still attracting the same people. So like, I want to kind of look at that too as part of this. Like, why am I attracting what I'm attracting, and like, what am I putting out there that's making that happen too? But I think that makes a lot of sense, and it's like this framework for me, I apply it professionally, and it's very easy to apply professionally. But it's been like I didn't think about it until this weekend about the possibility of like, oh, just do that to your own life, and like maybe things will be better. You know? Yeah, it's crazy
Yeah,
because I like my
100%.
3-year-old. I feel like talks to girls better than I do. You know? So,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
without
yeah,
doubt.
yeah, and it's like when
Because
I'm,
there's nothing
yeah,
blocking your 3-year-old. You're bringing all the
yeah,
baggage and the
yeah.
misconceptions that's blocking your energy towards communicating.
Yeah. And it's like once I'm out there, like I don't have a problem. Like for me, I just don't like what I'm attracting. And like it's led me to be pretty apathetic about dating. And now that I'm trying to get back out there, I feel like it's more disappointing than anything, which is probably more likely a reflection of like how I feel about myself as opposed to like the people that are out there, you know? So
100%. I promise you, there's attractive females out there who are like great women. Yeah, those exist. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Is there anything else do you think that's getting in your way?
Just myself and like negative feedback loops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a combination of negative feedback loops plus easy alternatives that give us short-term emotional benefits. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, that date didn't go well because all women suck. So, right, video games are awesome,
Yeah.
right? Or you know what I mean? Or like potato chips are the best, right? Because I always
Yeah.
get pleasure from them. They never disappoint me, etc. Like I'm gonna go over here. It's funny how often our brains will defend us from what the real answer is, because the real answer is like, no, you got to do more work. That's it, right? You got to do more work. You got to make these tiny little
Yeah.
tweaks, tiny little tweaks. But in my opinion, it's like the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with, right? Like either the perpetual disciplined hunt of that, right, to earn it, or like once you earn it, right, spending your time and putting just as much intentionality with that person, right? But sitting on the sidelines, in my opinion, is not an option, because you know you're better than that. You know you deserve more than that, and you know that your child, right? You want to, and is your child a boy or a girl? What would you say, boy?
He's a boy. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, dude, think about it, right? Like, what if you brought to the table, okay, every single inch that I'm going to force myself to get better, it's because I want to look at my boy when he's 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever, of like, hey, man, it's worth it, right? And I know it's worth it because I did it as your dad, right? Here's the playbook.
Yeah.
But the question at that time was like, do you actually have a good playbook? Because you were willing to run those plays and you proved it. And it's about repetition, right?
Yeah.
Not like, oh, like I played whatever Call of Duty, not shitting on Call of Duty, right? Like or playing video games. I'm just saying, right?
Yeah.
Like there's probably not much of a playbook you can get from things like that. TJ, what do you say, bud?
Honestly, that last bit kind of really hit home. Just again, like I'm sorry I keep kind of coming back to like me. But yeah, there's no perfect time. I would say like for one, just like writing everything down for like exercise, your diet. It's so key, dude. Like it's just there in front of you. There's no like kind of forgetting. It's just black and white. Like either you did what you had to do or you didn't. And like yeah, when you start feeling better, exercising, like dress well, like you look yourself in the mirror after a fresh haircut, you're like, I'm the fucking man. I'm gonna crush everything. Like, and like that energy, it might take a little while, but you'll find someone who's gonna reciprocate like that back. Like, you got to do like the things that I guess like the 80% of the guys aren't doing. Just you have to be a little bit better. Just do that little bit more like work. Make yourself a little bit more unique. But I'm really happy like that you're striving to make these changes because it's hard, and I'm happy. Like, it might sound a little weird, but like you're uncomfortable with yourself. You know, like how you said about eating KFC and drinking beer a year ago, because that's like you're ready to change, and it's just when the discomfort of staying the same, or the comfort of when the discomfort of staying the same is heavier than the difficulty of changing, like that's when you break. And I just think, like, you know, you're already here with the boys. We're gonna support you and push you, and you're just gonna crush it, dude. So that's
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wonder if we all use the model of like pretend that you hit your head and you got amnesia and you didn't remember anything about yourself, and also there was no mirrors around, and all of a sudden, like, you adopted somehow magically the mindset of whoever it is, like, right, Paul, your buddy, right? Or if you ever seen the TV show Mad Men, Don Draper, or pick whatever like alpha, right, like successful alpha male you want, and it's just like you just pretended to be him. You forgot everything else. You have a blank slate, everything else about yourself. Why can't you just replicate the playbook? The answer is you totally can, like 100%. Oftentimes, though, our just emotions get in the way, right? Like, why can't you walk into the gym? Why can't you not eat KFC? Why can't you not talk a certain way? The answer is obvious. Of course you can. Now, it requires practice, but I think that's the other thing. A lot of men don't even consider it's like, oh, if I want to be funny, like Matt practices his comedy. Shane practices his comedy. Every comedian that you and I admire, it's because they practice it to the tune of thousands of times. Quite literally, they fly around the country and they practice the same bits thousands of times, right? So it's like, why can't I be more charismatic? Why can't I be funny? Why can't I do this? You can. You just got to practice it. But most of us men are like, oh no, I either have it, my buddy Rick, no, he's got it. He's got the X factor. It's like bullshit. There's no X factor. It looks like an X factor because he learned at an early age, just he got rewarded certain ways, and that built up his personality to be gravitated towards that. There's no reason you can't do the same. And in my opinion, you could actually do it quicker with intentionality because you're smarter than your 3-year-old self. It's just a little harder because of the emotional, like your emotions are going to want to pull you back because that's the safety zone. You know what I mean? I also like what Kylo said. He said relationships are mirrors. I think he's 100% correct. And also he said haircuts. I think haircuts are, again, one of those like easy thing, like just like general hygiene type of stuff. But anyway, Paul, anything else come up for you, buddy, from this conversation? Sorry, I think we just like by default put you in the hot seat, which you did not.
No.
We're not ready
Good.
for. I apologize.
No, I think like, God, it's hard, I think, to be honest with yourself about it, because sometimes I feel like I handicap myself because I know that, like, not even that, I don't know, I tell myself that, like, even if I fixed all those other things, it's still not going to be enough for somebody, And it's like, that's like the part that I need to like focus on and look at too, where it's like, I know the cookie analogy, right? Like everyone's a cookie, you're a delicious cookie. I'm a delicious cookie, but it's like easier in practice to like get over that than it is like just in your head, And it's like professionally, I can apply that because it's very simple. Like there's boundaries, there's expectations on how those relationships should work. Like I struggle sort of establishing those like for my own life. So like, I know that like I can do this framework to like improve physically and do all that stuff. And like sometimes I feel like I don't even try because I know that like at the end of the day, that's the mental barrier that I face,
Yep.
And it's hard. Yeah, it's like shaking a little bit, even just saying it, because it's like how many times, I don't ever like express that.
So, dude, no,
it's crazy.
I'm so ecstatic that you actually said that because that's what all of us guys think, and we don't have the balls to actually say it out loud, right?
Yeah.
Like, so what comes up for me when you say that is number one, it's the analogy of, the woman who says, "Hey, I don't want to start working out because I don't want to get too bulky, too muscular." It's like, I promise you, it doesn't work like that, right? It's like, how about we get in the gym first, and then maybe 10 years from now, you'll find out that you're a little too muscular, right? There's so much distance between now and then, so let's just not assume what that state feels like. And I would say the same thing to you, bro. Like, number one, I don't think that thought, for me, the thought's never gone away. Like, so I don't know that it's the thought will go away. I think it's, and I also don't think it will shrink in size. I think what will become evident is the size of yourself relative to that thought. Do you know what I mean? It's like you become bigger than the thought. So every rep that you do in the gym, or every piece of clothing that you exchange for a better piece of clothing, or for whatever it is, right? Whatever skill set you add to the repertoire, you become bigger and bigger and bigger in relation to those negative thoughts. And then eventually, right, it just becomes like a quick, like, hey, monkey brain, I know you're saying this again, but thank you for sharing. I'm going to proceed anyway. And you'll feel a little bit of emotional sting, but then when you come out of the gym the next day, you're like, oh, right, it's okay. I look forward to the monkey brain thought again tomorrow morning. And then you stack enough of those chips, and again, in relation to it, it's easier, right? But I honestly, I don't even think you want that thought to go away completely. Right? We always need some version of a little enemy, right, pushing us forward to remind us of what could be, or the mindset that could be, if we weren't who we are. But you already know what it's like to feed into the thought. We already know what outcome or rewards we get into when we believe that bullshit mindset. Like, oh, no, you're worthless. You're like, yeah, I'm right. Let's eat some KFC. Do you know what I mean? Right? We already know what that road gives us. So what the hell do we have to lose? Why not try the other road? Why not try pursuing the things despite how we feel in the moment? And then we'll see. And then string together another one and another one and another one and another one. Then maybe 3 months from now, that thought won't feel as powerful. TJ, final words of wisdom, brother.
I definitely agree. Just the more wins you kind of get under your belt, just like you just feel kind of like, again, like that's how I've been building my confidence. It's just showing up and being as consistent as I can. And it's going to show, in every other aspect of your life. So I say just keep working, dude. You got it.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, my final thoughts here would be, I think a man who's on a path of progress is incredibly fascinating. And if you can bring a childlike energy and curiosity to your own path of progress, and then just communicate that to people, whether it be on a date or whether it be your friends and family, right? Like, how amazing is it to talk to somebody, be like, hey, listen, I had no idea, but when you actually eat salad, you feel better. This is crazy. Do you know what I mean? Or it's like, hey, I went to the gym yesterday and it worked. Right? Or like last week I couldn't touch my toes, and now I still can't touch my toes, but I can almost touch my toes. I'm within like 3 inches. This is nuts. You bring that level of energy to a date, they can't help but have a good time and laugh, right? And you're intrinsically interesting because you're actually on the journey, right? Think about when you talk to somebody who just came back from whatever, backpacking from Europe or whatever. Like, it's like, if they're into it and they tell you, like, holy shit, like, this person's out there actually living life. This is crazy. They almost got robbed. That was nuts. I remember Matt came back from Brazil one time. He almost got stabbed, right? Fascinating stories, right? Guess what? He would not have had those stories if he just would have sat in his room. So when you're on the journey, it will automatically give you the inventory of stuff to talk about. And then just with childlike curiosity and expression, you just tell that to other people. And I think that's inherently magnetic. Paul, final words of wisdom, brother.
I think this was a very good session. I feel like some of the ideas around, like, hey, some of those energies and ideas are going to be a constant. Like, the only thing that's going to change is going to be your input. I think applying that framework along with like time blocking to help, like, I know that like I don't want to do the thing because it's going to be hard, and I know that I'm scared of what the result is going to be before it even gets there, so I think like stacking some of those different practices together should help. Plus, yeah, it's like this shit just isn't working, like, yep. I really need to do something more between the financial goal every 2 weeks of like, spent my money, put it into savings. Now what the fuck do I do for 2 weeks? Like, so I want to use my time better.
I would love to take off if you're ever down. I would love if you're down for sharing in the future of like, hey, what would the ultimate program look like to get you to that version of yourself? Like no different, right, than how you program a gym regimen, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to go on this day, I'm going to do this amount of sets of this amount, this exercise, et cetera, et cetera. I would be real curious what it would look like if you put down the video game paddle for an hour or a couple hours. I'm not busting your balls. I'm saying like legitimately trade the video game hour or hours for coming up with a program to get you from point A to point A1 and then to point A2 and then eventually point B, sort of a thing. I wonder what that look like. Hey, Monday I would do this. Tuesday I would do this. Wednesday I'd make my bed. I'd clean my house. Thursday I'd go to the gym. Friday I would go get a new outfit. Saturday I would get a haircut. Do you know what I mean? How much freaking progress could we make in a week to transform ourselves?
Yeah.
How much could you do in a couple of days, right? Just like that, just through intentional effort. And then also the anti-program. Here's what I'm not going to do this week. I know I'm going to fail at this. I know I'm going to do some of the things that I shouldn't do. I know I'm not going to do some of the things that I should do. But if I can trade 2 or 3 of those things throughout the week, that's like a 4-point swing in basketball. And you add up a few of those over a month, and you're on a completely different path. Paul, super appreciate you coming on, bro. TJ, same to you. Mark as well, and Ray. I love all of you guys. We'll see you guys on Friday. Later, dudes.